And if you can believe it, it's a Friday once again.
All right, what's up, everybody? Hello, welcome to Comic Book Radio. I'm your host, Peter Cimetti. This is episode 217. This is an open lines show, so the link is pinned to the top of the chat if you want to join and have a discussion with me on air about tonight's topic. And tonight's topic is art or writing. What's more important to you? Now, I don't want to hear about what do you think needs improvement. What do you think is wrong with the industry in terms of art or writing? What do you think makes a book stand out? I don't want to get too cerebral with it. I don't want to get too analytical with it on a broader spectrum other than saying, what is it that you find important? What's your preference? Now, if you truly don't have one, or if it's really difficult for you to come up with one, that's fine. We could talk about that too. But for you, does the artwork seem to stand out more? Is that more of a factor for you getting into a book, continuing with a book? Or is the writing more of a factor for you? And I want this to be a conversation where both the art and the writing are fine. I'm not talking about books where the art's spectacular, but you feel like the writing stinks, or the writing is phenomenal, but you feel like the art is lacking. I'm not talking about that necessarily. I'm talking about in general, when both are fine, what is it that you tend to be more drawn to? What sticks with you? Now, I've got my preferences and opinion on this. It's kind of a two-step process, but I'm not going to talk about that till the end. I don't want my opinion to shape any of yours or dictate the conversation tonight. So before I dive into all of that, let's say hello to those of you in the chat. Thank you guys for being here. We got, let's see here. And again, if you do want to join, please feel free. Click on that link at the top. Let's discuss. Creative Faye, this is from earlier. Says, I think both are important, but I do place more value on the writing. I pass on a good-looking book if the writing is bad, and I'll tolerate bad art to a degree for a good story. All right. Alejandro, and there's no right or wrong answer as far as I'm concerned with this. This is your preference. This is how you feel. Alejandro says, hi, Pete. In sequential storytelling, the writing is made into art. You can't have one without the other unless you go for a more careless, not too serious comic. That's my take. Well, I don't want to say... I just said that there's no right or wrong answer. I think Alejandro might be misinterpreting what I'm saying here. Alejandro, if you're watching live or if you watch tomorrow, I know he's over in the UK. What I'm saying more is not about the fact that the writing to you, what is more important in terms of what do you think matters more to a story. I'm more trying to say what is important to you. Not to the story, not to what makes something good, not to the effect of, well, the writer is kind of coming up with a lot of things and then the writer goes in there and then tells the artist what to do, because sometimes that's not the case. In fact, oftentimes in comics, it's not entirely the case. And a lot of the times the artist will come up with a great idea visually and the writer will either fight them on it or go along with it. So it's not just like the heavy lifting is done by the writer conceiving every single possible thing that could be done within the comic. So I want to make sure that I'm being clear in terms of this question, because I see it kind of bandied about now and then in terms of, what matters more to the book, the writer or the artist, what matters more, the art or the writing. I don't mean that. I mean, for you personally, what's important to you? What matters to you? Not for the book, not for the character, not for whatever. There's a subtle difference here. There's a subtle difference. So I want to make sure that we kind of stay on topic with that tonight. D Handy says mutually exclusive, yes, both are necessary, or one will hold the other back, and the book sales will tank as a result. Yeah, I think some people are getting too cerebral with it. Think about just what you like. Don't think about analytical figures. Don't think about money. Don't think about performance on a book, sales, who it appeals to. Just what you like. What you like. All right, let's see. We got Spicer McLeroy here. Says writing 60, art 40. I'll forgive some weird art decisions if the story is good. I won't forgive bad writing ever, he says. Ever. Hot damn. Spicer coming in hot with the ever part. So writers beware. Be on your best behavior when Spicer is your reader. Cole King says, I'm going to miss this one, but let me say, I can forgive bad art if the writing is great. But if the art is great and the writing is bad, I won't keep reading. So I guess writing is more important to me. See, that's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to look at it. You know, think about your experiences on what books you love, what has drawn you to it, kept you with the book. Bobo says, writing, even the jankiest art can be carried by good writing, but the best art can't make up for bad writing. Metatron's Cube says, if the art is good, you don't need to read the words. Look at that. Revan Saber says, evening all. Evening, Revan Saber. Hope you're doing good. Ben says, wow, great question, Pete. Art is what I'm visually drawn to, especially if I'm seeing a cover for the first time. Dr. Mask, what's up, Doc? Thank you for being here tonight. And then Ben continues and says, but if the writing is not good, I will lose interest quick, giving the edge to writing, though they are both intrinsically connected. And what's up, Ben? Hope you're doing good. Thank you for being here. Metatron says, in general, the art, it's why I read comics. AL, what's up, AL? Hope you're good. Hope you're having a great night. Revan Saber says, story/writing is the draw for me. However, art will bring me in more or take me right out of it. All right. Headless Bourgeoisie says, writing is more important for me, assuming the art is at least competent. Yeah, we're going to say that they're both fine. The writing's fine, the art's fine. But why are you sticking with it? It's got to be a reason. One of them's got to outplay the other. One of them's got to outplay. You know, so one of them is not going to be mediocre. But they're both fine. They're both fine. Because it really is. It's tough. I don't think I've ever stuck with a book. I've purchased books where I'm like, generally speaking, without giving away my position fully on the subject, I was drawn to the art. And then the story took me right out of it. So I've never stuck with a book, a series, or enjoyed a book by the end of it if the writing was bad. Didn't matter how good the art was. So, even with this question tonight, after giving it some thought today, I was like, you know, my original position was, but now I'm thinking it might be this, but now I'm thinking it might be this and this, and I'm comfortable with that. So that's why I'm saying, you know, what matters to you? I don't want to hear about, you know, what you think maybe needs to be improved for a creator to make a good book, or the problems with the industry at large, or a certain company, or a certain line of books, or a character. You know, I don't want to hear about that. I don't want to hear about that, even though I'm sure that if we have someone come on and we have a deeper conversation, maybe we will get into some of those topics. But I want to kind of try to get just what you think, what you care about, in terms of why the hell are you reading comics to begin with? What are you liking more? What are you liking more? Because there's always going to be something. I know we don't give it a lot of thought sometimes. Sometimes it's just, you know, you do it. You just go into it and you're like, I never really thought about that. You know, why you're drawn to something, or why you stay with a book, or why a character that you enjoy why you enjoy them. You know? Kier, what's up? Says art. Just. Then he says writing. So I'm guessing, is that art and then writing? So art is the most important. I mean, he is an artist, first and foremost. So, Beampad, what's up, Beampad? Hope you're doing good. We got AL here. Says, I would prefer both writing and art be good, since comic books are a visual medium. Yeah. Well, you know, that's like everyone's preference, you know. But I think a good story can overcome bad art. There are a few artists I can't stand, so those are exceptions. Don B says art made by AI might pass, but a story made by AI would suck. I don't know. Man, that's a whole other topic. I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole tonight. Maybe another night, but not tonight, Don. Not tonight. But interesting point. Headless Bourgeoisie says most of my favorite comics are by a one-man writer-artist. So just a one-person creative team. There's a lot of stuff that's like that, you know, the auteur kind of thing. Sometimes they do every aspect of it, like you get Robert Geronimo with Blood Realm. Sometimes they do the writing and art, and then maybe someone colors and letters, which is like Tyler Wentland on Red Koi. So there's all kinds of instances of that, but you know, that is an interesting take, if that's where your inclinations tend to go. Yeah. Again, there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to what is your preference. That's all. Ronan says the writing. It says agree with Cole 100%. HB. I'm going to call you HB. It says Headless Bourgeoisie. Along with his explanation. Takes up a little more time than I intend. And he means by one-man writer-artists. Let's see. Metatron's Cube says, but I draw, so of course those are my preferences. Says, I have entire series of foreign books in languages I can't read, but the art is too good. I mean, man, like if you can, and you should be able to follow a story in comics, visually speaking, right? Without any words, without reading it. The words should be, in my opinion anyway, adding more substance to the art. Now, the writing could detract from the art, but the art's like the baseline, in my opinion. So I agree with you. Sheldon says, I buy comics 9 out of 10 times because of the art. I still have series of comics that I haven't read. I don't think that's that weird either. I think there's a lot of people out there, myself included, that have a bunch of comics that they've flipped through, and you know, you bought for the cover, you bought for the art, you bought for the sake of the collection, the run that you're collecting, whatever that may be. You know, I don't think I know a single person who's read cover to cover every book they own. I'm sure they're out there. But personally, I've never talked to anyone on that level where that's been the case. So, Jefferson Roswell says, without good writing, why make a comic book? Otherwise, just make a pinup book with great art. And that's a good comment right there. Because honestly, I've seen some comics over the years made by people where I'm thinking, you know, they should have done that. They should have just done like an illustrated book instead. You know, they're not effectively using the comic book medium. They maybe can tell their story in a more interesting or concise way if it was more like an illustrated book as opposed to a comic. And then sometimes you get the other factor of maybe the artist that they want to work with. Maybe it's even them. It's a one-person creative team. And maybe they just don't get how either intense it's going to be time-wise to come up with a comic, or they don't understand, so they start taking shortcuts and whatever when it comes to the art and things. Or maybe their art's not up to snuff. Like, it's okay. They could do a couple things, but to really make a great comic, you got to be able to draw all kinds of stuff, different angles, the perspective has to be there, anatomy, consistency. You know, there's a lot more to it than you can just make a pretty picture. You know, it's kind of like, can you draw that pretty picture 50 more times? I mean, that's a good exercise right there for someone who wants to be a comic artist. You know, draw a picture, just a simple one. It could just even be a face. Draw a face. You know, whatever that character, that face, whatever that is, and draw it 50 times and try to keep consistency on that face. You know, and then look at it and go, how consistent was I? How successful was this? Because that's as simple as it's going to get for making a comic. There's going to be all kinds of other things you got to do with consistency over and over again. So yeah, something to consider there. Chris Six String says, for me, writing has to be good. Story is the name of the game. Someone said art gets them through the door, but writing keeps them there. Let's see here. We got Carbon Dioxide in the chat as well. Says, art is way more important to me. Pretty much why I collect comics. Metatron says, John's long box. I don't know what that was in response to. If you can clarify in the chat, that'd be great. Alpha Proto says, art, people will buy the same comic 4 times if they like the cover art. Creative Face says, I draw too, but I value the writing more. Although I write too, so I guess that's why. Alpha says, I'll flip through a comic to see if I want it, depending on the art. I won't read a word. Let's see here. We got, what's up, Rachel? Thank you for being here tonight. Rachel says, I went to my local comic store and it was full of old stuff and a few indie comics. Well, that sounds great. Is that a problem? Carbon Dioxide says, I'm at a point now where I am starting to want to read some well-written comics and focus more on good, intriguing story. Any recommendations? I appreciate. Well, I recommend everything and anything at alternacomics.com. Can't go wrong. Best value for your dollar. Comics for Life. What's up, Comics for Life? Thank you for being here. Hey, better late than never. Metatron says, I said John's Longbox as someone who has at least read most of his books. Or it seems that way. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. Although I wonder if he's read cover to cover all of them. He's got a lot of books. I'll be unbelievably impressed if he has read all of them cover to cover. All right, so we got somebody here waiting in the wings, very, very patient. I'm curious to see what they have to say tonight. What's up, Mr. Bug?
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. How do you feel about tonight's topic? What matters more to you, art or writing?
Well, I'd have to say art the most because it kind of does a lot of the heavy lifting for a book. It gets people's eyes on it. What draws you in. Obviously, writing has an important value to it, but art kind of does a lot more because comics are a visual medium. They can tell their story on their own, and obviously you need some good writing here depending on what book it is. But usually the art is the first thing people see. Like one book I read a while back that I got caught into because of the art was Sword of Azrael. You know, very stylistic art, very good, eye-catching stuff. You know, it got me into the door and the writing kept me in there, but I wouldn't have been in that door if the art wasn't, eye-catching.
Yeah, that's a great point. So you would say that art edges the writing for you, or does writing edge the art for you?
I would say art hedges it in because it is like the main lure, and the writing will support it, and it's something I'm trying to do for my book. I want to make my art look good, and eye-catching, because that's what's going to get people in, and I hope that my writing will keep them in, but that's a whole nother day of itself, work in progress and stuff like that. Uh but I know from my perspective, art is definitely a big thing that draws people in, and if I can provide that, that's one thing I can do to get them
Okay.
in.
Now, let's dive deeper. So, where you're saying art is a bit more important for you. I mean, obviously writing is important, but the art is a little bit more important for you. What is it about the art that is important to you? What is it about the qualities of the art? What is it that you think, in your experience, don't think about what you think other people would like or anything else. Just for you, think about all the stuff that you love regarding comics and comic book art. What is it that you love about it? Why is it important to you?
What I love about it is the iconography of it. Like, there's so many moments in comic books that are just ingrained into your head. Nightfall with Bane breaking Batman's back, the death of Superman, Spider-Man dumping his suit in the trash can, Spider-Man no more. These are very iconic moments in comic book history that are just ingrained in your mind. So even if you forget the writing, you're not going to forget the moment because of that image. Like, those panels are just iconic. You could show even some copy of it, like, say, that they do nowadays when they say, oh, we'll have Spider-Gwen dump her suit in the trash can. Everyone's going to go, oh, I know what they're doing. I know what they're referencing that to, because it's ingrained in your head, So you may forget the words to the story, but you're not going to forget the art. It's
that visual impact. There's something visceral about it that really hits you and stays with you.
Yeah.
What art do you tend to be drawn to? Who are some of your favorite artists?
I mean, like Alex Ross, obviously, George Jimenez, like a couple of those guys. God, I forget
again. No wrong answer. It's your preference. Whatever you like.
Like, I'm trying to remember some of the other artists, but it's like some of them that have like names I can't even pronounce because they're all like in different languages, or they have spelled very wrong.
Is it like Bill Sienkiewicz?
Something like that, or there'll be oh god, what's his name? Stefan something. I know he wrote some good stuff with DC, and he's also popular because he wrote Sunstone, which is like a bit of a...
Okay, yeah, I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so he's got a very unpronounceable name, but he has very iconic art to me that I'm like, oh wow, that's nice. Do
you tend to be drawn more towards the painterly type style then? I know you mentioned Alex Ross.
Sort of. It's strange. It's strange. I can never really settle on what it is. I just know when I see some art that just clicks into my head, it's like, oh wow, that's really good. Like with George Jimenez, he did a lot of good stuff for Batman that's just so eye-catching to me that I'm just like, oh, that is such beautiful art. And even other artists like Dan Mora, he does amazing stuff for Batman and Superman these days, and even did a Power Rangers TMNT crossover, and he had the best looking Shredder that I had ever seen,
When was that? About what year?
I think it was last year, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really good. Classic Shredder, the purple cape and the blades and everything, and it was just like, oh wow, So it varies, but it's it's hard to describe. It's just you know it when you see it. It just gets you, and you're just like, ooh, I gotta see that.
Absolutely, yeah. I get what you're saying, man. I get what you're saying. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your opinion on the topic tonight. Appreciate it.
I'm happy to give it up when it's needed.
No problem. Did you want to give a quick plug to whatever it is you're working on?
I wish I could, but the problem is it's work in progress because it's work in progress.
No website, no anything that you want to point people to?
No. I'm kind of taking the Eric July approaches to it. Is like when I have everything finished, then I will start putting up the for sale sign. You know.
Okay, sure, that's fine. No problem.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you, Mr. Bug. What's your first name before you go? You mind sharing that?
Like my actual name, or?
Yeah, your actual name.
Well,
just your first name. I'm not going to figure you out. I don't think anyone's going to figure out who you are based on that. If you're going to put a book out too, it's going to be tough if no one knows who you are.
I know that's another thing. It's not just a matter of identity thing. I have a weird thing with my name where I'm a little embarrassed to say it out loud.
Oh, okay.
Type thing.
All right, no problem then. I'll let you be. Thank you, Mr. Bug.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on tonight. All the best of luck to you, and thanks again. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too.
All right. I just like to know people's first name so I can say, all right, have a great night, Dan, Joe, Bill. But that's fine. All right, let's see here. We got a couple other people with some good input here tonight on the topic. Let's see. Carbon Dioxide says, my stack of unread comics gives me anxiety. Oh, man, well, I hope you're able to get to those soon. Comics for Life says, I feel at least for me, I would get more into reading every book purchased, but am more selective about what I read now. Let's see. AL says, I've read every book in my house cover to cover, excluding appliance manuals. Well, you got to get on that, AL. Quit slacking. Alpha Proto says, I need good art, otherwise I'd just read books. Ugh, who wants to read those? No pictures. There's some good ones out there. Just a few. Alpha Proto says, someone could say a novel is the best story ever, but I won't read it because there are no pictures. People are inclined to be drawn to different things. It always interests me. People's preferences. Let's see. Carbon Dioxide says, AL, I hear you on the escapism. It's such a blast when you find a comic that transfers you to another place. Absolutely. And Sheldon was digging Mr. Bug's explanation. Yeah, it was a good explanation. Let's see here. We also have Metatron says, comics are like memes. Too wordy, and it fails. There's some truth to that. Absolutely. Comics for Life says, I believe depending on the team, it's a 50-50 thing. You can separate Lee from Kirby, Wolfman, and Perez, and so on. Both writer and artist are bringing their best to the table. Well, once you get a creative team that really works well, when they don't work together, sometimes you can notice, wow, the other one must have made a considerable contribution, and vice versa. And I think that happens a lot. I think we've seen that a lot over the course of comic book history. Metatron's Cube says, I think people's preferences will be swayed by how they think. Some people see words as thoughts, so would like writing better. That's an interesting take. Yeah, I agree. Dr. Mass says, I'm about 1,400 unread comics. That excludes all the Tom King Batman that I pulled without reading. John's Long Box says, I have 18 long boxes of unread comics, but I have 178 read boxes of comics. It's a whole lot of comics, John. See, I know John's got a lot. And yeah, 90%, it's a pretty high read through. Absolutely. All right, let's bring on, we got somebody here waiting in the wings. We got Madison here. What's up, Madison? What's your take on tonight's topic?
Oh yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Man, every time you come on, though, it always sounds like you're in a big chamber. There's a lot
That's
of
a
echo. Your
big
voice is
conference room.
booming. Yeah,
But is it clear?
it's
Is it too
clear. I
much?
can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, first I'll say what carbon dioxide said is that I definitely like when you feel like you were there after you've read it. Like that, the time you're reading it, you feel like you come back from a place for
Yeah.
sure. That's always the best feeling, you know. But I feel like I've seen kind of both ways. I think it's good to have the balance, right? Kind of like a 50-50. But I mean, I've seen it both ways in that um, I've seen incredible art with like a really terrible story, but it does well because the art is just so spectacular and dynamic. In a way, it kind of saves the writing. And
Mm.
then on the other side, I've seen an incredible story where like even like something like a manga like One Punch Man started out as really not great art, but the story's so great, and you know it's kind of a parody thing. It just caught on, and then they caught up with the art. So like you know like on those far ends of the spectrum, like if which most people probably could never aspire to. Like if you're just that fantastic of an artist, you can almost carry any story. And if you're that fantastic of a writer, then you can almost carry any artwork. You know, it could be stick figures if the story is just that great. Just most people can never do that. Like you know, like it's not something that really can be done that easy. So I think it's kind of like it's like in the medium. I feel like on the front end, the art sells the comic, but the writing keeps it alive. You know what I mean? Like the writing stretches it. So the initial sales can come off of incredible artwork, but if the writing isn't great, then usually you know you can see the IP die or the story die out if the people don't stick with it. Um, Whereas sometimes if the writing's great but the artwork isn't good, people just never get on board to begin with. You
Yeah.
know, so it's kind of like it's that give and pull. Like for me, like if I'm doing like writing something, I'm always looking for almost like a competitive kind of thing with my artists. Like, can I outright their art? And it kind of keeps us like back and forth to try to stay on the same level in that sense. Because it's like when I first got into comics, I really felt like my artist saved my story. Like, you know, like the first few chapters, I was like, yo, he definitely blessed me because, you know, he kind of kept it alive. And then I was like, but I don't want to feel like that every time I'm putting out something. So then it kind of became like a competitive thing for me where it's like, I want to try to outdo my artist. And hopefully my artist is looking at the script and saying, I'm going to outdo this guy. Like, you know, like kind of, and you kind of get that balance. So I think I think it's really kind of 50-50. I think the story carries an IP or anything, like it gives it legs, but the art is what brings people in almost.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I guess we're over a half hour into the show, so I'll give my position. It's very similar to what you're explaining. My position is that the art is what attracts me, and the story, the writing, is what keeps me there. And I've kind of
Yeah.
hinted at that throughout the course of the show, and I've mentioned this before on other shows too. But it, I can only tolerate the bad writing and a bad story for so long. I don't care if it's my
It's,
most favorite art, my favorite artist, whatever. I thought they could do no wrong. Any story they could just carry it. And I've read a lot of different things where the writing was just so bad that I just couldn't stick with it. You get to the end of the issue and you're like, I can't do this
yeah.
again.
You just stop reading and just flip and look. Stop reading. You just start
Yeah.
flipping and looking. You
Yeah, and if I
just
like the character already enough, like if it's already a pre-established character that I already like, and the writing's bad but the art is phenomenal, I might continue for a couple of issues to at least just get it to see what the artist is doing, just out of the pure curiosity of the visual of seeing,
right.
what are they putting on the page here. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time reading that story. You know, so the story it turns into if the art, and sometimes there's really fantastic, talented artists, but
Yeah,
they need you need that writing there
they,
to get the
yeah,
story.
yeah. I
You
guess
know,
I guess to that point as well too. There's a lot of great artists out there who want to be their own writers, and maybe
yeah,
they should team up. You know, like
yeah,
like writers are always looking to team up with artists, and that's a given. But sometimes the artist just needs, like, everything's great, and they feel like they can't figure out why they can't stick or catch on. You gotta kind of step aside and get with a writer. You know, find a
yeah.
writer that
Even
you really like.
if it's someone that they want to put them not in a capacity as a writer, but as an editor or a
Right.
co-writer,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, I think there would be a lot of artists out there that would really benefit from that. But yeah, there's a lot of times where I found that the art, even though it might be phenomenal, sometimes it really isn't doing the job of storytelling that it really should for you to understand everything that's occurring. So you do need to read the writing. But yeah, you know, I for me it's weird because immediately the art wins. And I thought about the topic earlier, and I was like, the art for me is what edges it out. But then once I'm reading the book, that's when the story actually starts to take over. And I don't care how good the art is at that point. If the story is crap, I'm out. So it
What
like it
about
shifts. It goes art,
what
then it
about
goes to writing.
what about when the art starts great and the story stays great, but then the art starts to slowly decline? You know,
Yeah, I mean,
degrades over time.
I'm definitely more forgiving of it, but it really depends how bad it's getting.
Yeah, like, yeah, for me, like, sometimes if the story's great and I'm like stuck and I've been with it for a long time, then I just gotta, like, I mean, at this point you got me. You know, like, it's, if the art goes bad, I gotta see what happens at the end. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
sometimes that's how it is.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing your opinion
Thank
on
you.
the topic tonight, man. And
Yeah,
good
great
to
topic.
talk to you. And I'm going to see what everybody else has to say in the chat here, and if we get somebody else coming in here. We had somebody else in the green room before, but it looked like they had to take off. Maybe they'll come back. But Madison, thank you so much. Before you go, did you want to plug anything?
Oh yeah, you can check all my comics out on Golden Tree Publishing. We also have a Kickstarter going for a graphic novel, Unicorn Melee 2. You can find the link to the sign up also at goldentreepublishing.com. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Take it easy, man. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Pete. You too.
All right, so let's see. What else do we have going on here in the chat tonight? Alpha Proto says, yeah, one man punch, or one punch man. One man punch. Was a popular webcomic, but it was pretty much stick figures. It was so popular, a real manga artist offered to redraw it. Then it became a big hit. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of instances of, even for me, I think about it. It's not so much with comics, but there's things with like animated shows where I wasn't really digging the animation. Nothing spectacular about it, or sometimes I just wasn't really digging it at first, and then just I gave it a shot, convinced myself, okay, I'm gonna sit through an episode, and it was good. With comics, it's tougher. There's been times where whenever I'm turned off completely from the art, it's really tough for me. It's really tough for me. But there's times where I've been on the fence about it. Like for me, someone who I'm really on the fence about. Sometimes I love their stuff, sometimes I hate their stuff. Is Frank Quitely. I know there's a lot of people who really love his work across the board, but there's stuff for me where sometimes I'm like, oh, this is fantastic, and then other times I'm like, who the heck did this? This is awful, and it's him. So there's stuff like that where, and Frank Miller's been the same, and it depends on what era of Frank Miller. But all I could think is All-Star Batman and Robin with Frank Miller's writing and Jim Lee's art. And I was like, this is going to be fantastic. That was tough. I mean, you might love that series, A lot of people didn't. And Jim did some fantastic work on it. And I've always been a fan of Jim Lee's art. But that was just a take on everything going on in that I was like, what is happening? What is this? It took me to a different place and time in a bad way. It was like a bad trip. I don't even like using that term because I don't even know what a bad trip is. I've never done any kind of mind-altering substances. But I would imagine that's as close as what it is All-Star Batman and Robin. Where it's like, this should be good. I should be having fun right now. And I just really wasn't having fun with that book, with that series. I think I was 2 or 3 issues shy from the complete run of it. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Can't do it. Have you guys had anything like that? Any series for you where you felt like there was so much promise to it, it got you into it, whether it was the writer on board, the story premise, the art, whatever it was, and then eventually you were like, I just can't, this is so bad, I can't do this anymore? Let me know that as well. Let's see, D. Handy says, story is definitely extremely important. I think the story sells books on its own easier than art does, but you have to have both. It's tough because the story, you have to read it to know it, right? You have to be pitched it. You have to read it. Someone had to tell you about it. You had to read it somewhere, a synopsis. You have to read the actual book to read the story. But the art is nearly instantaneous. You're going to know whether or not you want to see more of this. So it's tough. They're definitely both important, though. Absolutely. You can't just have one completely crap in the bed and the other one is cleaning up the mess every issue. You can't have that. It's not going to last. Alpha says, yeah, bad writing of a pre-established character just ticks me off, so I wouldn't read it no matter how good the art is. Sheldon says, I may have missed it. Which one is more important to you, Pete? So it's art and then writing. Art gets me, right? It traps me. It's like the little breadcrumbs, and now I'm there, and it got me, and, you know. But the only reason I stay in the trap is the writing. The only reason I stick around in that world with these strangers, these fictional strangers. The only reason those fictional strangers become fictional friends is the writing for me. That's it. And the art that I'm drawn to tends to be not just visually dynamic, but the storytelling is there, the character design is there. There's something about the character design, whether it's their silhouette, the colors used, the design has to go along with their personality. Like give me all day long. Give me all day long a character design that goes along with the personality. I'm not really a big fan of when the character design does not fit the personality. I know some people like that juxtaposition. It only works for so long and on so many different kinds of characters before all of a sudden you're kind of constantly trying to outright yourself. And therefore, I think that shows in the end product. It becomes kind of a tortured experience. And that's how I every time I've experienced that as a reader, I've always felt like they're trying so hard to not do, to subvert expectations, essentially. That it's getting in the way of storytelling. It's getting in the way of character development. It's getting in the way of all that kind of stuff. And eventually it becomes like self-parody. And that just kicks me right out of it. Unless, of course, the story is parody to begin with. Carbon Dioxide says Claremont kept the X-Men alive for decades with good writing. He practically recreated the X-Men. Metatron's Cube says, to be fair, X-Men had the best Marvel artists that whole time. You know, yeah, absolutely. You know, Byrne, and then going into damn near everybody else on that entire run. It's like you really can't pinpoint someone that was weak that stood on it for more than a filler issue. Yeah. Let's see. Doc says All-Star Batman equals dumpster fire. All right, so some people agree with me. You know, again, I wanted to love it so much, and I tried so much to look past some of the story and the writing and to really get into the art of it, and could only do it for so long. Let's see, D. Handy says, I was talking about in reference to what Madison said about writing carrying books. Gotcha. Jolly Green says, I've had about all I can take with bad writing lately. I hear ya. And that's kind of across the board, you know, so I get it. Carbon Dioxide is talking to Metatron here, so I'll let that be. Earl 3 says, or Earl the 3rd says, good writer can make the art work. It's, you know, definitely more so, I think, than the great art can make the bad writing work. Just in my personal experience. Let's see, D. Henny says, I think that's partially because you're an artist and art-oriented person as a result. I write all my books, though. So I draw, but I write all my books. And I think if we're all into comics, the art's kind of a given. Art's gonna matter, you know. But it's about what's more important to you. What's more important to you at the end of the day? What'll keep you hanging on longer? You know, and for me, it's the writing. But the thing that catches me immediately is the art. I can't get caught immediately by the story because I don't know what the story is. I have to read it to find out what it is. Comics for Life says, would an artist's great storytelling make you stick to the book despite the bad story? As an example, Perez working on sax and violin. I was big on Peter David's writing, but George Perez's storytelling kept me. Well, I mean, that's kind of just like a good combo, because there's other instances too. I mean, going back to like X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman, all those iconic characters that have had very long runs in comics. There's always going to be times where you like this creative team more, you like that writer, that artist more on it. Sometimes it's the combo of both that made it great, and then there's others where they get involved and it's not so good, you know. So that just seems like it's a good combo. It's just a good team. I mean, that's the ideal. I know some people have said like balance, right? Madison was bringing up balance, and I agree in terms of the importance of it, but I don't want to confuse that with balance meaning the same amount of writing and the same amount of art, because sometimes people look at those things, because that's what balance essentially is. Balance is the equal of whatever it is, the averaged out, you know. So for me, it's more like it's a harmony of those elements. But I do agree, and I know he was trying to say also, the balance in terms of the importance being on both. Both need to be great. I mean, you could have books with kind of limited writing in terms of the amount, and it's great because it doesn't need to be more or less than what it is. It's just right. The harmony is there. You know, it's like, think about it like musically. If every instrument's playing the same note, the same time, just as loud, it's just big noise at the end of the song. You just go, what is going on? But if every instrument is being played exactly when it needs to be played, with just the right notes at just the right volume, and it's the same thing that happens with a comic, if every aspect of that story, with visuals and with writing, those things are taking place just at the right moment, just enough of it, that's when you get that nice harmony. That's when you have something that really is successful as a story, as art, whatever it may be. Alpha Proto says, I was a Deadpool completionist. I struggled through Daniel Way's run because of his writing. When Brian Posehn and Jerry Dugan started Everything Was Bad, I said, F this S. Well, even though you use the initials, just for the hell of it. But I hear you. F this S. I think we've had those moments every now and then with comics, with movies, with shows, whatever it may be. Or eventually you're just like, I give up. Enough is enough. I'm tapping out. Too much. This is too much. I can't do it anymore. Hey, Bancroft says Bogan Raid. Thank you for sending along the Bogans. And welcome, Bogans, from Bancroft's channel. Much appreciated. But yeah, tonight's topic, art or writing? What's more important to you? What's more important to you? Let's see here. The Art and Times of Jay Ryan says, great art should hopefully get you to take a chance on a great story. I agree. And I'm putting the StreamYard link in here again. We'll be going for like another half hour or so. At the top of the hour, I'm going to be taking a quick 1 minute or so ad break. We'll share a trailer. But if you want to join, feel free to stop in and let me know. What do you dig? What's more important to you about the comics that you enjoy or the comics you didn't end up enjoying? The art or the writing? And not who's more important. This isn't like an existential conversation about the comic industry or about the role of the artist or the role of the writer. Just preferential. What do you tend to enjoy more? All right. Now that we got that out of the way. Mo Big says, my writing in the chat is often considered art. I bet it is. I bet it is, Mo. All right, we got somebody here. What's up, Sam from Sinopa? How's it going?
Hey, Pete, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm fighting the flu, so excuse the voice.
Oh, holy smokes. Why are you here? Just go rest.
I've been in bed all day, man, and this is a cool kind of conversation, I mean,
Okay.
It really does weigh, especially when you're putting books out, I think that it says a lot when we have to match like the artist to the storyline when we're not the artists ourselves, or when you have artists who are just really sharp on certain aspects that they put on paper and getting their literary works to really match those story beats. Mo, what's up? And Mo's right. He is a poet in the chat, so we like Mo. Mo's cool.
Absolutely. Now, Sam, for you, what's more important? I know it's like asking, which one of your kids do you love more?
Well, I do have 6 kids, so that's a tough call. This might be easier. On the creator side, I think the art for me is incredibly important because I can always continue to hone my craft as the writer. When I'm looking at Necroholic, for example, where I don't write it, I don't draw it, I just edit this, then I kind of try and balance this. I mean, are these panels matching up to the story beats? Are we really flowing through it with what he wants to tell? And Necroholic is a little bit of a tough edit because it's written like a television episode, right? So, or like a cartoon, where you're kind of flowing through these individual beats at a pace, like if you were trying to watch through, a quick video, like a 10, 15 minutes kind of show. So, the art for me is very, very important, because the thing that I think
Does that edge out the writing?
I think the writing is you want to say equally important, but I think when it comes down to the business aspect, the art is going to get the customer's attention, and then strong writing is going to hold it and carry them into the second one. So I guess long term, writing really, really holds out, because you'll see people who have books out that, aren't very sharp on the art, but the storylines are really, really intriguing, and even when you don't have really high levels of detail, I mean, we've all seen books that the art was a particular style that maybe didn't have a lot of effort into it, but it would fit the storyline. And not to be a blasphemous bastard, but the first couple of issues of Bone come to mind. The writing really carried Bone, until the art kind of got more specific and more consistent through it. That's just my opinion, And specifically, I'm talking about issues 1, 2, and to a lesser extent 3. But those story hooks were really solid. But generally speaking, I think the art anymore is more important, because we're competing against getting those people for those first time views. So long term, definitely the writing has to carry, but those sale number ones, we have to have banger art that fits the story beats.
Let's see. Metatron's Cube is saying, "What? Bone's art was top notch for cartooning."
I disagree with the first three issues.
I don't think I can't remember the first 3 issues.
Yeah.
I remember it being fine. I haven't looked at them though in years.
I mean, don't get me wrong; they still hold up today. Bone is fantastic, But if I were gonna pick one to illustrate that point, Bone would be it.
Gotcha.
Whereas opposed to like Aria from Avalon Studios through Image, Aria was always incredibly heavy on art, and the first series on that was really good with the writing on it, and then the second story arc left a lot to be desired, but the art was still absolutely banger.
Gotcha, man. Well, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your opinion on tonight's topic.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. You have a good one.
You too, and get some rest. I hope you feel better soon.
I'm gonna try, dude. And running 2 campaigns at the same time on top of this, it's just kicking my ass.
Oh, holy smokes. Well, sometimes you just need a whole day to just get some sleep, get some rest. And then don't dig too deep of a hole for yourself.
I feel you. Hang in there, everybody. I'm going back to bed.
All right, man. Absolutely. Take it easy. Have a great weekend.
You too.
All right. So I see you back there waiting in the green room. I'm going to take a quick break, though, just about a minute, and then we'll be right back. You're watching Comic Book Radio. This is episode 217. Art or writing? What's more important to you? We'll find out in a minute.
Sekai was always afraid of the dark, a trait unbecoming of a samurai.
I haven't followed the path of Buddha, but tonight I ask for finality. I have persevered from the low to realize my moment, my dream.
But what Sekai lacked in courage, he made up in ambition, skill, and perseverance. To become a lord, how far would he go? What lines would he cross? And where will loyalties die?
You must flee. Never. To become a lord, this is my dream.
All right, welcome back. So art or writing, what's more important to you? Come on in the show. Let me know what is on your mind. There's the link to join the show right there. If you want to discuss tonight's topic live on air, let me know. Again, this is just about preference. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to this. What do you dig more about comics? Is it the art or is it the writing? What keeps you or gets you to read the comic? Some people say writing, some people say art. It's up to you. It's your thing. All right, let's see what we got here from Dr. Mask. What's up, Doc?
Hey, Pete. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you, man?
Good. It's been a while.
Absolutely, yeah. It has and it hasn't.
Right? It's been a while since I talked to you actually in like real time. But yeah, I don't know if I can add a lot to this, but I just remember like as a kid, I think as a kid it was art, you know. I mean, you go into the spinner rack, you're looking at covers.
Yeah, that's what like blows your mind at first, right?
Yeah.
Seeing everything.
Yeah, and you're like, this one looks really cool. If it didn't, you know, you only had a limited amount of funds, so it was like you're gonna buy the coolest looking covers you could find. Maybe you'd look through a few pages, you know, while your mom was waiting or whatever. But I think now you definitely writing is the most important thing. One thing
now for you, would you say that writing is the most important thing for you? That edges out the art?
I would say so. And I kind of have maybe a different take on this, but like I like a lot of different artists, you know. But it depends, you know. Like I love Steve Ditko, I love Mike Mignola, I love Neil Adams, but I like guys like Ben Templesmith too, you know. But like Mike Mignola, I love Mike Mignola, but I don't want to see him drawing Wonder Woman, you know. Yeah. So I think
it's like I love Dean Martin, but I love Iron Maiden.
right. So I think somebody had kind of said this, but you know, if the art is, you know, conducive with the story, you know, then that's perfect, you know. But now, you know, it's to me personally, it's more about the story. And I think especially with indie and crowdfunding now, you know a lot of what's going on in that story before you get that book. You know, people talk about it. You know, you do a lot of talking about it, Pete, about what's coming up, and so you have a pretty solid idea of what that story is going to be about. So I think it helps too.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and to what you're talking about too, there's been a lot of the negative effect of losing the newsstand and the impulse buy of comics that have trickled out throughout the industry that I don't think a lot of people necessarily, and many people have, but I don't think a lot of people realize how deep it goes, because you're talking about cover design has changed dramatically. The way that comics are marketed and promoted has changed dramatically. It almost feels like, you know, you get the previews catalog if you are inclined to order from the comic shop and you have a pull list and things like that. If you read the previews catalog, you're essentially reading, like, almost, for most comics, 2 issues into what's going to happen. You know, so if they don't word that synopsis correctly for that description, it can give away the current issue that maybe is in your hands right now. You know, so if there's like a character death and then they describe it the next issue or 2 to come as, well, after the death of so-and-so. And you're like, well, that's great. So we're constantly like in this state of marketing based on this coyness and kind of just, well, the retailer, that's who we sell to. That's how a lot of publishers and creators view it. And then the retailer sells to the customer. But the thing is, everyone is selling to the customer. And as soon as we kind of, in the industry at least, not this is a conversation industry-wise, not reader-wise. In the industry, as soon as we kind of lost sight of that, and it became like the cover really wasn't about being eye-grabbing, attention-grabbing, that kind of thing, because once a book was sold to the retailer, it was sold. But if it was sold, not really sold, to the newsstand, it had to sell, because if it didn't sell, it got returned and you didn't make your money. So it was way more about getting the attention of the passerby, the reader, whoever was going to be there, the kids that were going to be there, whoever was looking for something to pick up and recognize the character, or thought like, oh, that sounds like an interesting issue. That's a predicament that sounds like it might be fun to dive into for a half hour or an hour, but things have changed. So it's like, I feel like a lot of things on that design level have changed for the worse, because of the fact that we no longer really have to work as hard as comic creators and as publishers to make sure that everything stands out on the rack. And if someone that's creating comics wants to kind of counter that argument, I'm going to be like, well, just go to the comic shop, go to the new release wall, and just look at the sameness in tone and composition. Look at the amount of covers of just kind of people standing there. Look at the amount of covers that lack storytelling. So, of course, it's become an issue where that's not really something as important as it used to be.
Yep, I'm sitting here nodding my head because that's a real pet peeve of mine. And that's one of the reasons on Twitter I'll post a comic book cover or two a day, of mostly golden age stuff, but comics that tell a story. The cover tells a story, not just a pinup. That kills me, because you look at that, oh yeah, it's nice, it's a nice art, it's a nice pinup, but there's nothing there that makes me want to buy that book.
Yeah, it's like, it's a pretty picture, but
right, it's almost like they're saying what's inside this really doesn't matter because it's got a cool cover.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like a taking the audience for granted kind of thing, of like, well, we put this character on the cover here or whatever, so you're gonna buy it regardless.
Yep.
We don't have to entice you to read this. We don't have to set up either what's to come or kind of give a bit of a twist to it, set up like the thing of like, oh my god, Batman, you killed him, right. Like that kind of thing, or
Yep.
And you're like, well, who the hell did Batman kill? And you're like, I gotta check this issue out. So we lost a lot of the fun that came with comics. It's very rare even to see text on a comic. The Virgin cover thing, like, I know it's a variant a lot of the time, even though I've seen some people not make it a variant. The Virgin cover thing with there's nothing but the image, and it's usually just like a pinup type image. That I hate that. I hate that. I'm like, just make a poster, or just put out a trading card, or make a print, or a T-shirt, or yeah, it's nice art, sure, but how is this a comic cover?
Yeah, completely agree.
We don't even want to put the logo, the masthead. We don't want to put any hint that this is a comic.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's my preference.
Yeah, well, going back to when I was a kid, like I said, the art drew me in, and people ask me, hey, what was the first comic you had? And I just don't even know, because I always had comics. I can remember having them as, like at 7, in the house all the time, but I would read them. But back then it was like even the caption boxes were too much text for me. For the most part, I would just skip right over them and and just read the dialogue and the thought balloons. I miss those too.
Yeah, it's like, good, it's in the square box. I can skip that one.
Yeah, that's right. Who cares?
It's like the thinking of so many kids reading comics. Yeah, man.
and I never discovered EC comics until later in life. And even now, I'm like, some of those I'm reading, I'm like, oh my god, it's like a novelette. It's like.
Oh yeah,
I can barely, and then I heard that they actually drew the pictures around the text on those or something. The text boxes. I don't know if that's true or not. But,
Oh wow, I believe it based
but
on
yeah,
some of
they-
the ones I've seen.
they wanted to make sure they got that point across in those comics. But I mean, they're still awesome comics, but just a little quirky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's something to be said, I think, for writing that's well done, even if there's maybe a little too much of it, but that there's a literary aspect to it, and the illustration really can help accompany that. You know, that can really bring in a little bit more of an immersive feel. But I think sometimes maybe writers, you know, we tend to think that we're a lot better than we are, and then we end up getting carried away, and it kind of becomes sort of cringy. It stops being poetic or literary at some point, and it starts turning into just nonsensical cringe. You know, it's just word salads of stuff.
Yep.
And yeah, that can definitely happen. But you know, I honestly I'd take that over the 2-minute comic, which happens a lot in modern times, where you look through the whole comic and 2 minutes goes by and you're like, well, that was it.
Yeah.
That was the whole, and I read it. I read the whole thing. 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, the like some of that stuff just as far as all the text just says, okay, I don't trust my artist enough to tell the story. So I've got to make sure you get it, you know. Either that or you don't trust the reader, I'm not sure, but
Yeah. Well, you know, there's a lot of there's more conversations to be had from this, but going back to the main topic before I let you go tonight, now you had mentioned the writing,
right.
edging out the art for you.
Yep.
Any writers in particular that really you tend to gravitate towards that have not usually seemed to do you wrong?
I mean, it's odd because when I think about writers now, I think, you know, I'm a big Edgar Allan Poe fan. I like Robert E. Howard, you know, so it's a lot of like novels and short stories and stuff like that. But like Denny O'Neill's, you know, a lot of his stuff I liked. Who's the other? I'm trying to think now. Chuck Dixon stuff. Usually that stuff is always fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to think off the top of my head because I think that's kind of happened now. Archie Goodwin, like I've been reading a lot of the old creepy and eerie magazines, and he's got a lot of stories in there, and those are good. So, yeah, I mean, I'm at the point now where I'll pick up a book if it has so-so art, but I know the writer and I enjoy the writer. So, but if it's, you know, if it's a writer, I don't buy any really new stuff anymore, but if it's a writer I just don't know, I probably wouldn't even bother.
Someone that I wish, I know he's written some, but I wish would write a lot more comics is Paul Dini.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's done some good stuff.
Yeah. Because every time I've picked up something that he's read comic book wise, he gets the, and it's the same thing with Batman the Animated Series, especially on the episodes that he's written. It's like he gets the rhythm and the pacing, and I think we're missing a lot of that. And I think someone too that, and they're not here anymore, they haven't been with us for a while, is Dwayne McDuffie. He did a fantastic job, and he should have been given the keys to whatever series he wanted to work on when he was still with us. And at least we got some really great stuff from him with the Justice League animated series, and he did a lot of great comic work too. But he should have been around to do a lot more.
Absolutely.
But yeah, he was great as well.
I have to tell my Dwayne McDuffie story.
Oh, okay, sure.
So I met him at a comic show, and he was talking about when X-Force #1 came out. He went to his local comic store, and you know, everybody's in there getting their copies of X-Force #1. There 4 or 5 different cards that were in the issues.
Yeah.
polybagged in the issues, and so he bought one, and then immediately ripped it open. And everybody's like, "What are you doing? You can't rip it open." He goes, "You're gonna ruin the value of it." And he's like, "But how else am I gonna put the card in my bike spokes?" He's a cool dude.
Oh man, I remember doing that. There's baseball cards though, but yeah, I remember doing that.
The Reggie Jackson in there or whatever, you know.
Oh yeah, well mine was more like whoever the hell, I didn't know who this dude was, you know. You got the price guide out, you're like, oh, he's not even listed. He's one of these like 5-cent common cards.
I come from when we didn't have price guides, so
yeah. I was like that next generation, and then the one after was like bicycle. What's that?
for me, it was anything that wasn't the Yankees was not, you know, I didn't care, you know.
Oh yeah. It's not one of your guys, so
yeah.
To the bike. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight and sharing your thoughts on the topic of the evening. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Pete.
All right, man. Take it easy. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Bye.
All right. So up next, we've got, let's see here, George Peter Gatsis. What's up, George?
Hey, greetings, Peter. Greetings. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. What are your thoughts about tonight?
Yes, I'm going to make this short and sweet. I got what do you call it? I'm going to show you my math. Okay.
Okay.
So when I first got into reading comics, when I first got into comics, I couldn't read at all. I just bought it because I liked the art. I liked the dinosaurs that was coming out of Joe Kubert, his 1 million BC, right? It was all about the dinosaurs. So it was all about the that art. And then I got into Spider-Man again. It was because of the art, you know, John Romita. And then John Byrne again. It was all about the art. And John Byrne, it stuck. And everything he drew, it doesn't matter. Everything he drew, I followed it. Right, all the way. And the art is more important. Why? Because the art caught my attention. Eventually, I was able to read. It wasn't. There was no way for it to be any other way around. Kids, you know, at a young age, at 5 years old, stuff like that. There's absolutely no way they're going to be reading Spider-Man, or Thor, or Watchmen, and anything like that. No,
it's all visual and pictures.
Yeah, it's all visual. As soon as you get captured with the visuals, eventually you'll get serenaded into reading, and then eventually the reading will may become parody to the art, and in some cases it may just become more prominent. But that's when you have crazy stuff that's really don't compare to each other. Example: Alan Moore, when he did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
I like the art, but if you really think about it, you look at the art. There's no way you can actually know what the story is unless you read it.
There's a good point to it.
Or what is it, Sinewex or Sienkiewicz?
Yeah, Bill Sienkiewicz.
Yeah. There's no way you know what the story is unless you read it. It's he's just like a modern day Jack Kirby. You look at Jack Kirby stuff, you go like, okay, the character just went from waking up in the morning to fighting space aliens by page 3. What the hell happened? You're looking at the art, but there's no way to know what the hell happened in 3 pages unless you actually read it.
Yeah, you need the writing there. I think Kirby is definitely a stronger storyteller though than.
It's just being.
But I get it.
Yeah, that's my take on it. Art
all right.
eventually leads to story. and story may parody, or it may become a little more prominent, but it's always art first.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on tonight's topic. Appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Thank you for having me on. Take care,
All
everybody.
right, George. Have a great night. All right, up next we got King Leek. What's up, King Leek?
Howdy, howdy.
Hey.
All right,
What's your thoughts on tonight's topic? What's more important to you, art or writing?
Well, my personal thoughts, it's actually going to be very close, but art is pretty much going to edge out writing just by a little bit. Mainly because what your prior guest just said, that, you know, you need the art to draw people in. And not only is it just the art, I mean, you look at the cover, you have that, you also have to have a great looking logo as well. And that's what I was disappointed with for Marvel for so many years, because they ended up oversimplifying a lot of their logos. You look at the current Hawkeye logo; it doesn't feel dynamic. It looks like minimalist, modern.
Yeah, it looks like that's where you pick up your pharmaceutical prescription.
Exactly, and then when they
come to Hawkeye, it's like Rite Aid.
And then when they switched the logo for the X-Men, they switched it to, what was it, that weird old LCD digital look with the digits, like what the numbers you would see on a calculator. It's like
yeah, I think comics went through, especially Marvel. It feels like went through it more than DC, at least on the visual front.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like they went through and are still going through a phase where they're kind of embarrassed that they're making comics.
Yeah, but yeah, it lacks that dynamic feel to it.
Yeah.
That's why I stuck with DC longer, because their stories felt more, well, not just their stories, their artwork just felt more dynamic, especially on the covers. Now, not so much. I mean, now it's just people posting.
Oh yeah, well now is when I'm seeing indies, whether they achieve it or not, they're going for it. You know, and that's what gives me some hope too, because some of them are reaching it. They're having success. They're getting there with what they want to do. Their art, their writing, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. But the ones that I'm seeing that are going for it, I'm like, man, I really hope you stick with it and you learn as much as you can, because I'm really excited to see where a lot of these guys are going to be in 5 or 10 years, because you have that in you to be like, okay, I want to push the elements of storytelling and really fully embrace and be comfortable with the aspect of this is a comic book. This isn't something I'm going to use to pitch a movie, or
Exactly.
You know, I really want to tone it down and ground the story into nothingness, so that it's this watered down gobbledygook that maybe will get picked up because it'll be a nice small production budget. You know, I want to see these books that are out there, the independents that are going for it, that are pushing it, that are like, I want to make life hell for someone who comes along and wants to turn this into a comic. You know, or what I would view more as is making their life even easier, because you give them this big, huge framework that they can draw and work from to come up with a great comic adaptation, if that ever did happen. But that's not the goal. The goal is to make an awesome comic first and foremost. And that's the thing, is that even if it's not quite there, I'm really excited to see where are these people in 5 or 10 years. And I hope that they really stick with it. I hope that all the independents that are out there that are maybe getting started or been doing this for a couple of years, keep doing it. You're going to get better at it. There's no way in hell that what I'm doing right now I would have done 10 years ago. I just wasn't there yet. You know, so you never know where someone's going to be given enough time and they stick with it. But yeah, I agree, man. There's a lot of these aspects to comics nowadays that I see that, and a lot of people look to these companies that are the bigger companies, and they're thinking that they set the bar, and I certainly noticed that with submissions that were coming through, which is why I had stopped. That's a big reason I had stopped, is because they're looking at the bigger companies to see that that's where the standard is, and that's what I got to aim at. And I almost can't fault them for thinking like, well, this is just as good as some of what I see being put out at the bigger level, why wouldn't this be good at the smaller level? And it's a shame that kind of stuff is getting pushed around as if it's good enough from the bigger companies. And but that's why I'm really excited to see where a lot of independent creators are going.
And truth is that you can't follow the bigger companies. You just can't. You're not going. Not to say you're not going to hit their success, but you need to follow or to the general creator. They need to do their own thing. They just need to do their own thing and just pedal to the metal. Just follow that. They do their own thing. They come up with something unique.
Yeah.
Like the Neon Revenant, I'm not aiming towards the levels of Marvel Comics or towards DC or not even Image or IDW, even though they're just a license house. I'm just pushing to do my own thing. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to create my own thing over here. I'll have my little dark universe. Then eventually with Rock Hard Comics, I'm going to have Monkey Division, which is going to be like the more kid-friendly side of it. So I'm going to have that as well. And basically, do my own thing. Just push forward.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well,
and have some poppin' logos.
Well, that's always important. Always important. Now, before I let you go tonight, did you want to plug anything specifically? Send anybody to a certain site or anything like that?
Right now, even though it's not going to launch on Indiegogo, it's going to launch on Fun.comic. I do have a sign up for the Neon Revenant on Indiegogo.
Okay. Cool. All right. So that people can go sign up for it. When do you think that's going to launch?
We are aiming for July 4th at midnight.
All right. Awesome.
Perfect.
And speaking of which, too, I'm going to be working on your sketch card tomorrow.
Ooh.
So I'll see how detailed. If I get super detailed with it and the art just takes me, I'll just finish inking it on my own because it's a pain in the what to go and do it on the stream, even though I wish I really could.
But if you do it on stream, just let me know.
I'll definitely be sharing the pencils and whatnot.
Ooh, nice.
But thank you again, man, and thank you for being on here tonight. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
All right, man. Have a good night. Take care.
You too.
All right, we got our last guest of the night, and then we'll be saying goodbye. Denali, what's up?
Listening in to the conversation. As someone who's working on his own project, Immortal Mask, I have to say art all the way.
Okay.
Because as a kid, what drew me to the comics was the art. And I realized, kind of like everything, even with novels, it's the book cover that draws you in before you actually read the book. So basically, everything is art related. If you want to catch somebody's story, if you have a bad cover or bad art, it becomes more difficult for a person to buy into the story. And even if your writing is subpar, with nice art, it helps go through. In most of the cases, you don't read it. But if you're a really good writer but you have bad art, then you have that upper hill to climb on as well. So art always edges out, especially in the medium comic book that's more visual than reading. There's been a lot of people in the audience saying, I don't want to read paragraph on my artworks. I just want to look at the cool pictures and, kind of phase out my mind for a while.
I think because there's, at least in modern times especially, there's been an overuse of either the writing / lettering is dominating the comic, or you get the art that's dominating the comic and there's hardly any writing. There's usually in that aspect, there's like a bunch of repeated panels for pacing. which to me it's a pacing killer to do that over and over again. You shouldn't need more than one panel to pause a scene. So there's all kinds of different things involving that, and I get where some people are coming from, where they're like, you see the wall of text, and you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And so I really can say, yeah, I get where they're coming from, but at the same time, I want people to fully understand that you can have that type of amount of text displayed in a different way with great writing, and you wouldn't even realize that it was the same amount of words.
Right.
But when you have bad writing,
you can tell.
Oh, it feels like there's 1,000 times more the words that are on there.
Mm-hmm.
You can't absorb anything that's going on in the story. It feels like you only spent maybe 30 seconds reading the page, but it feels like you spent 10 minutes. It's the same thing that whenever there's a pacing killer in anything, it's the same thing in like a movie or anything. The movie's an hour and a half, but it could feel like it took 5 hours to get through it.
Right.
Because the pacing was so bad.
Yeah. Especially it's like you're in the middle of an action scene and they start monologuing in the middle of it, kind of deal. It's like, really? This is the important time when you have to monologue?
Yeah.
We have to get...
My favorite's the characters like jumping. And it's like a 2-paragraph monologue.
Yes. He's like, it's like, how long are you jumping to say all that words? It's like, I'm jumping. My superpowers is to slow jump so I can.
I could tolerate. Okay, they're spitting out a sentence,
Yeah.
and keep the flow of suspension of disbelief. But when I see like 2 friggin' paragraphs, and the characters like jumping, and it's supposed to be this really fast scene,
right? I mean,
boy.
At that point, you just have to realize like he punched and he punched back. That's all you have to do. Kind of deal. Or let the art tell the storyteller. The absence of expression is an expression onto itself, kind of deal. The way I always remember it was the Star Wars special, the first one in New Hope, where they reintroduced Jabba the Hutt scene and they put the CGI Jabba, but he was so animated that they forgot like the absence of action is an action. Kind of deal, and sometimes writers tend to over-explain and over-analyze, and they try to put all that detail in when you have to trust the audience to say, no, I'm going to trust the audience to understand from the art that they're looking at, and then and add to it a little bit more detail with the words. Okay.
Yeah. So art wins; it edges out.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah, because if there's bad art, then you're going to second guess yourself. The person's going to say, should I? And then when they get the book and they open it, they're going to keep looking at the art and they're going to be like, is this really what I want? So you're always fighting that. Eventually, if it's a good story, they'll, like some other guests of yours earlier said, they'll read it and they'll be fine with it. But for some of them, they're going to be, nope, this is not for me. I don't care. I don't want to read this. I don't want to use my energy to. This feels like work, not fun, kind of deal.
Yeah.
And the flip side, in the flip side, awesome art, but the story isn't bad. But they don't feel like they lost energy, like you were saying. Like it felt like an hour film, hour and a half film took like 60 minutes compared to hour film, and it took 2 hours. You see the difference, kind of deal. You don't feel like you lost a lot of time or money when you have something pleasing to the eye, so to speak. Yep.
Well, thank you so much, man, for sharing your thoughts on tonight's topic. I appreciate you coming on here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here.
All right. Thank you, Denali. All the best to you. Have a great night.
Same to you. Thanks.
All right. Take it easy. All right, so I got a quick poll up here on the YouTube chat. What's more important to you? I should have put this up at the start of it. I completely forgot that I could put a poll up here. Vote art or writing? I'm very curious to see what wins tonight. As many of you as possible, just whatever one that you like. You don't even have to publicly share your opinion on the subject. But what do you enjoy more in a comic? Is it the art? Is it the writing? What do you tend to think, yeah, as long as that's good, I can kind of overlook some of the bad on the other one? Or when you look back, if you're struggling to come up with an answer for this question, when you look back and you think about your favorite comic creators, do they tend to be artists? Do they tend to be writers? Are they a bit of both? Think about that. So I'm very curious to see what wins. If I had to, I would say comics. It's a visual medium. I think art's going to win. And again, like I said before, for me, art, in its immediacy, for me, it wins. Now, what keeps me there is the writing. Provided that the art remains just as consistent and just as good as when I first liked it, when I first saw it. So it's art, then writing for me. So if I did have to say, if I was really, I'd have to go art. I'd have to go art. Because if it was never, it's like a chicken or the egg thing. If it was never for the art, I wouldn't really discover the writing, whether I love it or I don't love it. But it is a tough question, because the writing will keep me there. Doesn't matter how good the art is. If after a while the art is still just as good, but the writing, it could even be in the same book. Pick up the book. The reason I did is because I like the art. Flip through it. It looks serviceable with the writing. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole thing in the store. It's not a library. And then you take it home, you read the whole thing, and you're like, wow, this is crap. Now I'm not going to go get the next one. That's me personally. You might be different. If you're different, that's fine. So it's one of those things where, for me, it's like a chicken or the egg sort of thing. Because it really is like, well, what comes first? What's more important? What's what? But I have to say it's the art for me. Because without the art, I would never discover whether or not I like the story at all to begin with. The art is what got my attention. The art is what grabbed me. Even when a story grabs me, a premise, a pitch, whatever it may be, if I then see the art and I go, wow, that art is really bad, I have to pass on it. Again, that's just me. I'm sure some of you are either the same or you're different, whatever it may be. If that's your opinion, that's your opinion. That's how you feel about it. All right, so I'm going to take a quick look here at the poll in just a moment. Ben says good art will pull you into a book, but good writing will keep you coming back. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. King League says definitely have to say art nudges out writing. And I'm a writer. Yeah, I feel the same way. And I'm a writer. But I'm writing comics. So I'm always writing with the visual in mind. That my writing is supposed to help the visual. And sometimes me taking a backseat and not putting writing in that panel or on that page or whatever it may be, or being sparse with it, that's helping. Because the art is doing more than enough. And then sometimes the art needs some help with the storytelling. And now it's time as a writer to really make sure that those elements are working in harmony. Andy Gogo says it's a visual medium. Art, baby. Just Kevin Ryan says Justice League all through the 60s was Mike Sikowski, bad art, and Gardner Fox with no characterization, but the plots. Wow. Well, that's a lot of stuff from that time period. The plots were just... You just couldn't help but be interested because the plots were friggin' insane half the time. And they were just ridiculous. So you had to read it. You had to check it out. I think we've lost a lot of that. We've lost a lot of that. Make a plot that just leaves you going like, I don't know where they're going with this, but I'm digging it because I don't know where they're going. See, Ben says, good example. I like the art of the new Thundercats book, but the story was not good, so I only purchased the first book and then dropped it. Interesting. I haven't read it. Metatron's Coops is not going to lie. I like a lot of the pre-50s cornball writing and pulp writing where it's just crazy. I like that too. To me, it's on that level where I don't like to say it's so bad it's good, but it's a different kind of thing. I like the same kind of thing when it occurs in shows and in movies too. To me, it's like when you hit that dead zone in the middle where it's really not that great and it's not that bad. That's death. That's, it's just this kind of mediocre milquetoast kind of thing. So either, make it great. If it's great, wow, But if it's going to be bad, man, go down in a blaze of glory. Make it as corny as you can, as outlandish as you can. Make it memorable. Have a lot of fun with it. There's nothing worse than when you've got someone on writing a book, making a book, whatever it is, and their skills aren't up to snuff. But they're kind of trying to get something that's a bit out of their skill level, their grasp. Instead of realizing, like, I can make this work for me if I can utilize my style, what I've got going on here, and make a story that works with it. But the only other thing is, hopefully, if you are trying to kind of bite off more than you could chew, hopefully it's a learning process and you get at it, and then you can learn, you can reassess. What did you do here? You hopefully learned a bunch after you made your first comic or whatever it is. And then you learn more about yourself. You learn more about how to do certain things. Hopefully you've gotten better in some way, shape, or form. And hopefully you're still learning from others as well. Trying to find how to do certain things. Either better or faster. That's a big, important part of the process as well. But that's a part as a creator. I'm talking specifically about as a reader, as a fan. You like art or writing? What speaks to you more? What's more important to you? All right, so I'm going to see here. What's the poll say? Right now, the poll says 83%. 83% of those in the chat who have voted out of 18 votes. So we don't have everybody, especially everybody from tonight. That's why I regret not posting this up earlier. But 18 is a decent sample size out of the 25 that are here. I think we had 45 to 48 or something like that at the peak of the show. 83% art, 17% writing. So I'm not entirely surprised that art won, but I have to be honest, I'm a little surprised that it won by the margin that it won. I thought we would have had close to like 65-35. 65-35, I thought we would have had around there. But, all right. So art wins out, which again is not too surprising. Comics is a visual medium. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here tonight for this conversation. I'm so glad that we had it. This was a lot of fun. Diving into, what do we love about comics? What matters a bit more to you about a comic? The art, the writing? Obviously, both matter. Both matter incredibly. But there's always that little bit of something. There's always that little bit of something that keeps you sometimes overlooking the shortcomings of the other. And it seems that art has won. Whether that's the thing that does it, or it's the thing that keeps you, or it's the thing that grabs your attention, whatever it may be, it seems that art is the winner for tonight. So everybody, go let Art T Bear know that he won tonight. Go let him know. I'm sure that would put a smile on his face. He's got that Oodles of Doodles book that he's doing. He's so talented. Art T Bear. Good dude. All right. Thank you guys so much. All the best to you. Everyone, I'll see you guys. Let's see. Tomorrow I got more work to do. So I'm not going to have a show tomorrow, but I'll be back on Sunday for a draw stream. So we'll do a draw stream on Sunday. I've got a bunch of the last little bit of the Alterna April Comics sketch card perk. I've got the last little bit of those to finish up. Just quick portrait cards, and then that'll be that. But I'll see you guys then. So Sunday night, we'll start at like 9 o'clock Eastern. Not 9:30. We'll start 9 o'clock, just a little bit earlier. And yeah, we'll do a draw stream. All right, guys. Thank you so much. All the best to you. Have a wonderful night and an even better tomorrow. I'll see you guys, hopefully, Sunday. Take it easy.